weekly Magento GraphQL community meeting. Agenda is quite short today. We're light on attendees, I think, because of the holidays. So, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy upcoming New Year. I think we're gonna be gone next week, so I think this is the last one for 2018. It's been a great year for us. Happy with what all we've accomplished, and this is we've done a lot, so very cool working with you guys. Now for today, we've got agenda posted by Valera. We've got just two items, one on architecture going to be presented by Alex here, and we're going to be focusing on the checkout flow and kind of state transitions of accomplishing the checkout flow from the high level. And then we've got a discussion on quality that will be led by Tom, discussing metrics, ideas, and just quality roadmap and the improvements that we can make there. So without delaying you anymore, I'm going to pass word to Alex to discuss the checkout flow.
Hey, so you should be able to see my screen now, and basically what we are trying to achieve right now is make sure that all our mutations and queries for checkout are actually compatible with real life scenarios. And for that purpose, we started drawing like a schematic version of our checkout, and like we just have request response like sequence, which will eventually allow us to accomplish full checkout. And we are just making sure that everything is compatible, that we don't end up in a situation when one request returns some response which is not compatible with subsequent, let's say, mutation. And we have already found some issues which we probably have to address, and it's good that we are doing it now because some of endpoints are not implemented yet, and we can just adjust our schema before even starting implementation. And this is probably the best way to do it, to avoid any unnecessary rework. And how we can verify that actually our GraphQL is compatible with real-life scenarios is we can just look at existing, let's say, Luma theme and basic guest checkout scenario, and we can see what kinds of fields and what is the sequence of action usually is used when we do checkout, and just make sure that we can accomplish the same with our GraphQL. And so the first step is usually adding something to cart, and in GraphQL obviously we have to create a cart first, and you get this cart ID which you use for all subsequent queries, and it's important that it is hashed value, just to prevent brute force like hijacking of cards by users. So you potentially are not able to guess ID of any other cards in the system if you use these hashes here. So you get this hash which is acting like your session on storefront, and since our GraphQL is stateless, it means that you basically don't preserve any state between queries, and we don't rely on any like PHP session mechanisms. So this acts as your session, basically, session ID. And you operate with this ID for all subsequent queries up until the point when you place the order. So first step is usually adding products to cart.
Hey, could I ask a question there?
Yeah, sure.
Before you move on? So you're saying it acts like a session ID, but with certain settings, you will, like the cart will be preserved for a shopper across different sessions, right? So is this more like an ID of a cart, or is this, like, this is not going to change when the customer, like across customer sessions, right? Or is it going to be a different one?
So most likely it will be the same, because we store internal cart ID, which is just regular numeric value, and we have mapping to this hashed value. And previously when you like perform just regular checkout over here, but actually we use REST APIs here as well. like on our checkout in Luma specifically, we used REST API and we use like same mechanism. So I'm not sure we even use regular ID at the moment for checkout on storefront. Like previously, before refactoring to UI components and using REST APIs, we were using some checkout controllers and we were using just regular ID. Yeah. But now I assume that most likely if you start session, but actually it doesn't make sense to like switch. But even if you do that, if you do like partially in REST, partially in GraphQL, it will still work because this mapping is shared between REST and GraphQL. So potentially you can do like one request in GraphQL, one in REST, but this is not what we're trying to achieve eventually.
So this is closer to an obfuscated cart ID that's persistent than like a shorter-lived customer session.
Correct. Yeah, it's like a replacement for session basically, because you need to have some identifier to associate like one request with another, like a relation ID basically between requests. And this is what it is. So it's not a real session. We don't have PHP session started on backend when you use this ID. It's just ID which is stored in database, and it is actually identifying specific quote record in database. And I believe if you just start another, like if you create another empty cart, your existing cart will be disabled because we at the moment can have only one active cart in the system. So basically that's how it works.
Yep.
So then you use this cart ID and you add some items to cart. So we have, if you followed us previously, we have multiple mutations for different product types. And for now, we are focusing on the simplest possible flow just to make sure that we can accomplish checkout with, let's say, simple product, some check money order, and let's say free shipping. So the most basic payment, shipping, and product type variations. And then we can, as Misha described on previous call, then we are going to add support for online payment methods and all kinds of like shipping methods as well as product types. So basically you add product to cart and then you end up at some page which usually looks like this. So it's like starting page of checkout. And what we can see here, you are suggested to enter all your shipping information, shipping address. And you are also presented with some shipping methods which are not tied to specific address by default. And then as soon as you fill out more information, I don't have any enabled, but as soon as you fill out more information, we do AJAX requests in the background and we can fetch more relevant shipping methods which are like applicable to your address which you specified. And to achieve that, we actually need to have get available shipping methods, like available shipping methods field on this query as well. And it is actually possible to do because what happens in all cart related mutations and queries, you can get cart object, like full cart object in response. You can get like whatever you want from the cart. And in this example, we are not querying available shipping methods, and like this is not possible to render like with provided query. But what you need to do, you just need to add additional field like available shipping methods. We need to add it to previous query, and then you would get ability to render like these shipping methods along with the form. And then as soon as you continue filling out the form, we will just do some queries in background, and we will actually use this endpoint like set shipping address on cart. So we will be updating shipping address on cart, and then in response we will get like full list of available shipping methods, including those which are relevant for specific addresses.
That should be an array, right?
Yeah, this will be an array, but in GraphQL, remember, like you just specified in this format, and it doesn't matter. Like for example, selected shipping method is an object and available shipping method is an array. But in GraphQL syntax, you just specify it in this format and you don't care if it's array or not. But in response, so this is sample response. I'm not sure, like I believe we don't have these endpoints implemented yet, but we are just trying to work through schema. And in response, you will get an array here for available shipping methods, and you will get an object here, which is probably like empty by default, like it doesn't have any values. But as soon as you select something, or maybe we need to provide like default value. So as soon as you select something, we will be providing selected shipping method here and all available relevant shipping methods here. So then let's say you select shipping method, and then what happens, we are presented with a page where you can select your billing address. You can set that, okay, I just want to use my shipping address, but this is just how storefront is implemented. Eventually we will have to submit like all the data anyway. But basically you're presented with a set of available payment methods available by default, as well as billing address. And to achieve that, we need to use available billing addresses, available payment methods. We should use it like on steps above. So this is one of the information that we just get from analyzing all this, because this is like a draft at the moment, and if you have any feedback, you can go and check this out on our wiki on GraphQL C project. But basically on that page, we just get available billing methods and available payment methods, and you can fill out your billing address, and then eventually you are setting payment method on card. You are getting some response, like whatever you want from card again, because all mutations on card, you can get full data, full card data if you need to. And eventually you get mutation for placing an order. So as soon as you select your payment method, you fill out your billing information, you can just hit place order, and what happens in this case, we just provide our card hash, card ID, we provide it for place order mutation, and it will do place order based on all data which we provided previously for the same card ID. There were also queries from community regarding why don't we just implement one mutation to perform checkout, and we have actually discussed this previously, and the idea is that first of all we want to perform step-by-step validation. So on each step, usually in UI you don't have checkout in one click, because like you have to, unless you have all data stored previously, and that is fine, we can still perform like multiple GraphQL queries with all data which is stored for customer. But usually, let's say if you're a guest, you have to go through steps, or if you're a new customer, you have to go through steps and you have to specify your like billing address, shipping address, all that information. And usually you want to get feedback on whatever data is invalid immediately, and for that it is better to have like step-by-step endpoints or step-by-step mutations where you can just submit the next step and get immediate feedback if something goes wrong, and you can correct your information immediately. And in the future we also have an option to implement kind of one-click checkout with one GraphQL query, and it will obviously be supported by separate resolvers, and it's still possible to do it, but this is not the main scenario. And the biggest issue with that is that all data have to be validated in advance, or you will just get like, you may potentially get a bunch of errors at once, which is not user-friendly. Misha, would you like to add something?
No, that's That's accurate. So we've talked about all these possibilities, but remember the thing to keep in mind is that GraphQL is a storefront API, and so we are trying to our primary goal is to mimic the actions of a standard checkout flow, which, like Alex was saying, it's not just a one click. If it's one click, then all the information was already available ahead of time, like payments and shipping, etc. And you must have already performed those operations and performed the validation on that input data. So if you already have that data, then it will be possible to place the order, obviously with GraphQL as well. But the flow of setting those values and validating them needs to be supported by these endpoints that we're designing.
Okay, so if no questions, then probably we can move on to the item.
Cool.
Thanks.
All right, Tom.
Okay, thank you, Misha. Correct. Hopefully you're seeing my screen. Okay, great. So what we're talking about here is our quality plan for GraphQL as we move forward into the new year. We have begun running code coverage metrics on GraphQL, focused on the API functional tests. This is what it currently looks like. So you see there's better coverage in some areas than others. And we can drill down through in these. So this is a tool we'll be using going forward. So we can drill down in and see exactly where our test coverage is. And that'll be very useful. We can expose this data as well periodically so we can see where our gaps are. But in terms of what we actually want to do with this, so what we can see from this is we are in quite a good position with GraphQL. And this is not something you get to say in a lot of projects, is that we can aim for 100% code coverage for API functional tests for all our operations and mutations. We want that in both positive and negative scenarios. So it's not normally something you'd set as a quality bar, but with the way this is being developed and the importance of it, I think that's something we should aim to do. We'll use that code coverage checker to do so, along with some other tools. So that code coverage, we'll be tracking that internally. We'll also report on that monthly to show a trend of increasing coverage. I will obviously be looking at that more frequently to identify gaps and prioritize those, and write some of that automation coverage so that we can see an increase as we go forward. We will also be in the new year exposing some tooling for the community. So right now we're sort of testing and writing API functional tests as PRs come through, with the focus on, say, whole order flows and this checkout flow that we're looking at now. We want to define that and ensure that we have 100% coverage for it all as it goes through. And we'll be using some tooling to do that. That'll be available to the community so that we can track and report on, say, in this meeting every week, where we are, what coverage flows we have, what issues are in progress now. So right now we don't really track that. So we will going forward in the new year, and that's a tool that'll be visible. Possibly something like ZenHub or HipTest. That's to be decided, but we will see the backlog to do items, what's been done, what's been delivered on, so we can see our coverage increasing. So that's the general plan. It's a short one now. There'll be obviously implementation details of this in the new year. Do we have any questions about what that looks like, about our goals, or are we happy to go ahead and say we would actually like this fully covered and we want to track it week by week? Does that sound good, everyone?
Yeah, I mean it's a great goal to have, and it's good to be in a position where we can actually shoot for that.
It's rare that you can, but I think it is achievable in this case.
Cool. So what do we? If we say yes, this all sounds great. What are we expecting in? I guess there's holidays and whatnot, but what are we expecting to see in a month from now?
So we're looking at that tool being available, that will track a backlog. So it's the initial backlog from this coverage graph, what we haven't covered. So what would get us to our current state of 100%. So a backlog of items that need to have API functional tests. That'll include code that's covered here and negative testing, or code that's already covered by positive testing. So there'll be a backlog and a board that I can burn down, and our community contributors can help out if they'd like. So that'll be the first thing, getting us to a better state of where we are right now in terms of coverage. And then items attached to or in line with PRs and issues for our 231, 232 scopes that show what that testing should be specifically. So again, we can meld that into our definition of done. So as we deliver features and as we accept them, they contribute their correct code coverage via API functional. But the first thing we'll see is this tooling available with a backlog of items to get us to our current state, to get that number up. And we'll track the trend on that.
Cool, sounds great.
And then probably end of the month, we'll do another full coverage report that everyone can see.
All right, any questions about this tooling? Awesome. Okay, anyone have any other questions that were not, or questions or topics that were not on the agenda?
Nope.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well then, once again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and we'll see you guys in the new year.
Yeah, you too, guys. Have fun. See you next year.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Ciao.